10 minutes. Not a lot of pressure.
Dude, season 2, I mean, there's no one else I'd rather open it with.
I appreciate it. I was thrilled to be invited, so I'm stoked to be here and doing this.
Love to hear it.
Are we on the clock?
We are filming, so...
Cool beans.
Welcome to Master Memories, the podcast where my friends talk about their lives. Today, on September 11th, 2022, never forget, I'm here with Jeffrey David Alcol, a.k.a. Swole Jeff, a.k.a. Hefe, a.k.a. Any other nicknames I missed?
That's from what I've gotten here at Ohio State. That's about it, I think. Yeah, that's pretty good.
I gotcha.
Swole Jeff is one that I had not heard in a long time.
Dude, I remember like freshman year. It's like nicknames were like almost like a must. Like remember when people were calling me Mac or like you were Swole Jeff and like
everyone got a nickname within a week.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like you have to get or like everyone wants to like do something with them, but.
It's not even. I wasn't particularly swole. I think it literally was just like because y'all were gonna go do something, and I was like, I want to go and get a workout in, and I was like, then I was Swole Jeff. I didn't have like a rigorous workout schedule. I was just like, I want to like do something, but then from then on, I've been Swole Jeff.
Yeah, I think that and the fact that like you worked out, whereas like we didn't get on that grind until like months later, like damn. This kid's gonna get big. Swole Jeff.
Well, I've lost all of it. I'm just big now. I'm not swole anymore, unfortunately.
I wouldn't say that.
I try. I jump rope now, which is fun.
That's all you need, like that's good as cardio. Like,
dude, it hurts, but like you'd be surprised at how nice it feels, but also like it's not like running where it's like that's just like torture.
No, it's like I feel like running like you can't turn your brain off when you do it because like. If you're on the treadmill, like maybe, but like if you're like on the trail, it's like you have to like look where you're going and all that shit. Whereas like jump rope, like I did it back in like middle school, high school for some shit, and like you could just like even though your calves are like screaming, like stop it. You can just turn your brain off. Like I'm just gonna keep going.
Exactly.
Do my thing.
Half the time I go out there, it's just like I typically have like some like timers and stuff, but most of the time it's just like I'm gonna jump for like 10 minutes and just like do whatever I feel, like whatever feels right. And like typically if you get some like good music going or something, like it's fun. I enjoy it. It's cathartic even.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Jump roping's been good. I don't know why it's like a thing you do as a kid and not like.
Yeah.
Either a kid or a boxer, or like I guess like people are starting to get on the grind now, but like, dude, if there was like a double or like if the gym had like a double jump comp thing there. Right. It's been hours there, let me tell you.
It'd be cool. It'd be really cool. It's funny because I go out there and my grandma's like, why the hell are you jumping rope? Like, you're not a child. And I was like...
Surprisingly really good.
It's a great workout. Yeah. Like, you should try it sometime. And she's like, no, I can't do that.
Dude, gotta get grandma on the wave. Come on.
She's gonna be fine, I think, doing whatever she does for herself, which is not a lot, but she'll do it anyways.
What is your first memory of me and you?
It's hard to remember because like so much of like amongst our peers like it was always in a group, like there wasn't a lot of like one-on-one time.
Yeah.
So like there's just like a collective like memory of everyone, but I think what I remember specifically from like our first year at Bowen was like anytime we would like talk about like video games. So we would be like sitting in a room or something, and then like I remember us talking about like Enter the Gungeon like all the time. Yeah. And I was like, that was so much fun. Because typically when we sat around with people, it was like everyone's gonna start talking about sports and stuff. I'm not particularly sporty. Like I play sports, but I don't follow like basketball or football or whatever. So like anytime like it would be like, oh, like new Smash games coming out or like Gungeon, I was like, dude, I'm all over it. Like, let's get into the weeds. And that was always like my first, like, when I think about like first memory, like there's not one moment that stands out, but like those conversations, like in short, and always like the sort of like, because I mean you lived like what, 2 doors down from us?
Yeah, because the thing was like your room, then the stairwell, then me.
Yeah, right. And I was like, anytime I would walk past the bathroom or go to the bathroom, like chances are like you guys were in the room. So and like even just like nights after, like like going out to like a party or something, like reconvening and kind of like having the debrief, like the next morning post game conference, be like, what happened, and like walking through that. That's probably what I would say is like those video game conversations and then the post game conference.
I missed those like post game, like when you get up or someone be like Scott, you get like that like big group and like everyone's like, what'd you do last night? Oh, this was crazy. This is what happened.
Be like, you'll never guess what. Like this person said the Who, and I'm like, whoa, crazy. And it's like, oh, did you see this guy? Blah blah blah. Yeah, that stuff was always fun. Even if it was always fun. Even if, I remember there were times even like I didn't go out with like anyone. I would like was doing something else. I'd roll up and it would always just like pop a squat, lots of grub on like some really good omelets and some questionable like chicken. But like I agree. Those are cherished memories.
I remember walking into your room for the first time and seeing like that big Batman poster you had.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this kid's gonna be good, you know, like you said, like I remember like talking to you all about like video games and as well as like comics and shit going on.
Yeah,
like,
right. Oh, dude, it's off topic, but I've got a really cool picture to show you about Art Spiegelman and Mouse.
I'm excited.
Yeah. I won't get into it unless that's something that's allowed.
Dude, it's...
Basically, I'll make it quick. Basically, I work at the Billy Ireland Cartoon Library Museum on campus, and I was going through a stack of art to like catalog it in our database, and this huge original like art poster by and signed by Art Spiegelman like came out, and it was like a mouse panel, and I was just like, damn.
That's sick.
This is cool as hell. Because I remember I was like Landon would think this is sweet because you let me borrow a mouse from you, and I read like that was the first time I read it, and I was like, damn, this shit's so cool. But I was like, yeah, I gotta tell Landon when I get on the podcast. So I just did that.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
How is working at the cartoon library?
I love it. It's so much fun. It's really cool because I do data entry, which is like a fine balance between my skills of like computer science and like database stuff, but then also getting to work with like really cool art and like working like carrying out a mission of like trying to get the art accessible to people like researchers and whatnot, and even just like enjoyers of art, which I've found to be pretty instrumental on like my understanding of like why do I work other than to like make money, and like it's not great pay, and it's boring work in the sense that it's very repetitive. Like I'll sit at a computer and enter like the same 8 fields of like data about an art piece for like 4 hours at a time, but like it's like it gives me a lot more fulfillment than I've gotten at like all my other like internships and like whatever odd jobs I did like throughout college. But I love it because it gets me in front of a lot of really cool art that I get to like not manhandle, but I get to move it and manipulate it. And yeah, it's also just really fun to be in that environment. Because even though I'm not like doing a lot of like the cool stuff, but I still get to see like how museums run in like the background, which has been like fascinating.
A lot of appreciation for it too, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It cultivates a lot more of appreciation for like the form and like the different ways it's been used. Because I mean, we've got stuff that runs the gambit from like editorial cartoons to like smutty like porn, and like it's really cool, and like even shit from like the 1700s all the way until like yesterday. So like it's super cool. Like there's just like it's very versatile and underrated.
Oh, that's sick. I gotta come see it because like I remember going there for Mount class. But, I don't know if I've been there since, but I remember like walking around one day before Mount class because I got there like 20 minutes earlier. Just like this place is there's so much. It's
so cool. It is such a hidden gem, and not a lot of people know about it. Even like Ohio State students, and it was one of those things for me where like I had started working there last year, and I was just like, why didn't I know about this before? I would have taken advantage of this, but I'm there now, and I'm pretty happy with it. So.
What were you doing today before we started filming?
I woke up, I was at my girlfriend's place, we had breakfast, and then we watched the first 4 episodes of the mini-series Over the Garden Wall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if you're familiar, but it's pretty funny. I liked it a lot.
I'm just picturing Over the Hedge, but like the sequel.
It's not. There's a lot of talking animals, but like not like that. It's very like weird, like trippy, like Cartoon Network original, and it's like super cool. That was great, and then I left and I went to Stoff's coffee shop on Neil.
I love Stoff's.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I love it there, and I was doing some writing, and I did some reading as well, and I had a lovely coffee, and it was like literally made my day, and now I'm here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What are you writing?
I'm in the process of writing a few different things, and by few I mean 2, mostly. But I'm writing, what I was working on is that I'm writing the backstory of my next Dungeons & Dragons character as like a long form short story as opposed to just like bullet points or whatever. And it's more just like as like a writing exercise and for fun. But it's coming along pretty well. I'm trying to just cultivate like better writing habits as post grad approaches, because while I'll be working, obviously, so like trying to fit like writing into like already like a pretty busy schedule.
Yeah.
It's gonna be tough. So I want to be able to put away like 2 hours just to like get some work done. It's the kind of like work at the Billy Ireland, like it's not stuff that I do it because it's like lucrative by any means. It's not. It's just like it's like the soul feeding activity for me, and it's not. Yeah, I just enjoy doing it. It basically is what I'm trying to say. But yes, yeah, I'm writing a backstory for a Dungeons and Dragons character.
I got you.
Yeah.
What's the I guess like the quick summary of it?
He is so it's a high elf tempest cleric.
Right.
And he's basically he's an ex military, like basically like a courier for the military. He did a lot of running, but had an accident and basically like took him out of commission. Then he took up station at a lighthouse for a few years, but like became like a hermit in the wake of his injury. And then a god came to him who basically said, all of the bad evils in the world are the result of like these brothers and this like godly divine contest between the brothers and them pitting mortals against mortals. But like I want to stop them. Like, will you take up like my symbol and like fight to stop this like holy war? And I was like, and he was just like, sure, if you're gonna give me the strength to like and purpose to do something again, like absolutely. But that's the skinny, is that he's basically just like a holy warrior. But yeah, he's gonna like wield like thunder and lightning and shit. And
That's sick.
It's gonna be pretty cool. I'm excited for it. I have to wait a little bit longer to play it, but it's okay. It'll be fine. It'll come.
All the work will pay off, right?
All the work's gonna pay off. I've been putting far too much effort into it, but like it's been fun, so like why not? But like I'm really excited to like finish it off and like polish it up so I can like start sending it to people and like be like, hey, look how cool this is. My D&D backstory. And like yeah, it's been funny because like I'm trying to like convince people to like, like yes, I've been doing writing and like taking it seriously, but then it's like, oh, what are you working on? It's like, oh, I'm writing the backstory to a Dungeons and Dragons character. But yeah, that's what I've been working on in writing.
Yeah, it's funny. So you I know you said you saved the Art Spiegelman thing for the pod.
Mm-hmm.
I saved something for the pod for you as well. So I was in Toronto, and my cousin's girlfriend described it as like a very Toronto experience. Of she was waiting for the subway because it was like late, and she started talking to the people, or the bus actually. She started talking to people around him, like seeing what was going on with the bus, and then they just started talking and talking to the girl. She was like, oh, like I've been like trying to find like a D&D group, but like we've been like trying to find a DM, and my cousin's girlfriend was like, no way, like I have a friend who's always wanted a DM but like can't find a group, and so like
Whoa.
put the two together, and like by the end of like the weekend, like they like had their group set up and everything.
That's so cool. That's so funny. It works like that sometimes, honestly, because I mean, that's so fun to hear because like I mean, I just know a lot of people who are like, because for me for a while I was like I don't have a group to play with,
Yeah.
and it kind of just like sucks. But and there are also just like chance encounters where that happens. Because I mean, when I started dating my girlfriend, she was like, I was like in the Discord group with like people I met online, and like that was the game. It wasn't very exciting, like I wasn't very invested. But then after I dated my girlfriend for a few months, like she invited me into her game with like her brothers and like their friends, and like finally happened. And I'm like, this is awesome. But like it's like one of those things where it's like you just like meet someone at the bus stop, and there's like now we're like best friends and have a D&D group. Like that's so cool. I'm glad that your cousin had the experience, or your cousin's girlfriend.
Yeah, she was like the
Okay, gotcha.
intermediary between the two.
Yeah, but like still so cool. It's
know,
so
right?
funny because even as I've like even as I've like gone around and like I see people who are playing, and you could, even if like again like they're at the bus stop but they've got like a D&D shirt, you're like, dude, like cool shirt, and then like you're best friends.
Yeah.
And, like that's it. It's such a connector. It's so cool. But yeah, dude, cool beans.
I need to get into D&D. Like I know we like played that one time, me, you, Sean,
Yeah.
Griffin, Pat.
Mhm.
It was a goofy time, but like
It was very goofy.
I think I'm ready to like, you know, actually like dive in, like do the voices and everything, like, you know, instead of just like beat everything with a hammer, like
Yeah.
actually like try to get some ingenuity in there, like
Yeah, or make a necklace of dicks.
forgot about the necklaces and dicks. That was so I don't know what sophomore year me was thinking, but like I just wanted that necklace of dicks.
Yeah, and you got it. You rolled and you got it. You
Mm.
got the dick necklace.
I-
and then you guys played
And
beer
beer
dive to destroy the boss. Yeah. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful game. But
It
yeah,
really is.
you should find someone at a bus stop. Ask every time you get on the
Mm.
bus, just be like, yo,
Play D&D?
D&D? Like, what the fuck you want?
I can be the D&D bus guy.
That's
you know,
true.
Like, avoid him. He's gonna ask you if you play D&D.
You'd be like, you don't want to talk to that guy who's gonna ask you to join his D&D group or something. Yeah, that's funny.
What does your typical day or week look like right now?
If it's a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday,
Mhm.
I go to campus and I do school and work. And then after that, I will typically either go back to my grandmother's and enjoy the rest of the evening and just kind of get work done, or like relax, kind of like whatever the day demands of me.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll go to my girlfriend's and hang out there and do something in the evening. And if it's Tuesday or Thursday, then I wake up at a reasonable hour and I eat breakfast, make a pot of coffee, and then just like grind for the entire day, because I've found if I just get all the work done in like Tuesday and Thursday, and but spend like from like noon until midnight just like doing work, it frees up a lot of time for me to do other fun stuff as opposed to just like waiting until the last minute to get it done. Which is a shame that I've learned this in my final semester, but I didn't think about doing it sooner, but I've learned. So that's what my typical day looks like. It's a mixture of school, work, and then relaxing by means of jump roping, reading, writing, video games, whatever else. It doesn't matter.
I agree with you. Like I'm mad that like I didn't figure out how to study until senior year of college. But
Right.
at the same time, like I feel like now that I have that, it's like applicable maybe to like later. Like I don't know, like for you, like maybe instead of getting like, yeah, I know like jobs kind of are shitty when it comes to like stuff. Like if you could find a job that's like, you know, not 9 to 5, but like, you know, like 3 or 4 days a week, and like you said, like get that like
Make your
just
own schedule.
head down, grind it out for like those 2 days, and or even if you have 9 to 5, take 2 of those days to actually work, and then the other 3 are a lot more freed up.
Right. It makes other avenues of work a lot more enticing, because like either like doing like freelance work or whatever, just getting like a non-traditional like 9 to 5, whether it's like, you know, working weekends or even like night shift, like it makes it a lot more enticing because it frees up It's just instead of like trying to shoehorn yourself into like a schedule that just like doesn't work for you, just like naturally by whatever reason, like it makes that look a lot more like enticing, as I've said already. But yeah, I'm looking for a work like that when I go forward, because I've just kind of realized the 9 to 5 is not only a struggle, but especially if I'm working for someone that I just like don't give a shit about, it's tough. It hurts a lot. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I think the thing for me like that I learned is like summer 2021 like loved the company, hated my job, whereas like now like at Nationwide like I don't hate my job, and like the jump that makes, you know, like where it's like not dreading going into work anymore, and like still don't love my job necessarily,
but
but
still
like,
work.
Yeah, but you know, like finding somewhere I think for you like that'll like, you know, not dread the mere presence of having to go in for 9 or 8 hours 5 days a week, but
yeah. I did a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot, but I did freelance work this summer for 2 different music festivals.
Really?
Yeah, and like it's kind of the direction I'm trying to lead it, because basically what happens is that, you know, for like 3 weeks up until the music festival, you do like some like advanced work, and that could take anywhere from like, you know, a few hours a day to like the entire day because it's urgent, or just like none at all. But then for that like week and a half that you're at the music festival, you just go like balls to the wall the whole time, all out sprint. But then, you know, when you're not working, you get to be at home doing some like pretty light advanced work, and then like doing whatever else you want to do. Like a lot of the people I talk to are like, yeah, this is essentially my full-time job, but it gives me enough flexibility to like work on the side and like do like some like passion projects, which is really cool. But like exactly, and it's like while it can be difficult work and there's like a lot of red tape at times, it's still like this is like I feel like I'm producing something that like I'm happy with. And I don't dread going in. Like, is it suck to be working from like for 12 hours a day at a music festival that you really want to go see the music but can't because you have to work? Like, yeah it does suck, but still being in the environment, it's so cool. So hopefully that works out. I don't know if it will, but I've been told that it will, and I need to not get my hopes up, so in case it doesn't.
I'll be rooting for you, let me tell you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rooting for myself too, and I can take all the rooting I can get, so it's appreciated.
Where do you lean politically, and why?
I'd like to say that I'm pretty independent and don't subscribe to like either the right or the left or any of like the other parties, because I just find subscribing to like a party holistically and say like, you know, I follow all of these, like, you know, because if you're like, you say like I'm a Democrat, and it's like, okay, well then do you agree with like all the democratic values on like immigration policy, financial and fiscal plans, public policy? Like, it's like to just say like that as like an umbrella term and then like have that apply for everything, I find to be so strange. Especially if a lot of times, like especially now where it's like a label like that can like really just like, for some people, really like make or break it. Like, I know some people who are like, you know, just like, if you are a Republican, I'm not gonna fuck with you at all. Or like even the other way around. Even if like, you know, for some ways like you lean either way. So I typically try to stay away from labels like that, but if we had to like, you know, go down the row, you'd probably see me leaning more towards the left with a lot of things that have to deal with like social issues. But when it comes to more like fiscal and financial means, like probably a little bit more to the right. But even then, I say that with a grain of salt, because I'm a very bad citizen, and then I'm just not knowledgeable on like what is happening in a lot of like sectors of politics. Because I'm a little bit more nihilistic in that sense, because I just like think there's a lot of corruption and a lot of not great things happening right now in the world. Even, you know, a lot of issues propagated by people that I would probably look to and be like, that's a pretty stand-up guy. Like in reality, there's probably so much shit happening. behind closed doors. But if I had to say something, I would probably say I am independent. I wouldn't dig into it any more than that because, frankly, you're probably not going to glean much anyways because I'm just not as educated as I should be.
What I think is interesting is like, doing however many episodes I've done with this, like, I feel like so many people are like, not only like, you know, afraid to like say, you know, not afraid, but you know, like, to your point, like, oh, if you like say that you're a Democrat or Republican or even lean like left or right, it's like, you know, there's so much like stigma around it as well as like having to agree like politically like with like all that just as well as like just so much disillusionment, like kind of how you touched on how like I feel like I don't know if like this is just like a natural thing to have in your 20s or it's just our generation, but I feel like everyone's like kind of seen through like all the stuff of like it's a game. It's not like I feel like people don't really have our best interests anymore. It's more just like for their job and for their seat or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's strange because I associate with people who are like both like red-blooded Republicans, but then like very like liberal, borderline like socialist, like Marxist, every other ist that is associated with like democratic views in this day and age, and like. I don't know, I see that person, I'm like, I would understand why you have these interests given your background and current status, whether that be like socially, economically, or whatever else. And then also other people who are like, you're protecting your own interests. That makes sense. Like, does that make you a good person or a bad person? I don't know. I don't think I'm the person to say. But as long as you're not going out of your way to like maliciously stiff arm someone, I'm probably gonna say, you know, more power to you. But that's the issue when you get higher and higher and making more like important decisions that affect a broader people, is that even if you're acting in your own self-interest, just because of how the world works, someone's gonna get screwed over.
Yeah.
So as long as you're taking the action to mitigate that as much as possible, then it's like, you be whatever you want to be. But yeah, I agree with the thing where it's like, you know, I could imagine a lot of people when you ask them that, they're like, they have the reaction that I did where it was just like, I don't know. Because I think a lot of it is like where people are like, aren't going to say, because a lot of people even know, they're like, I'm not really one or the other because like I believe in these things that are held by people in Democratic parties, but also I believe in like these things because that are held by like Republican parties or even like other parties. But yeah, dude, I just not expect you to ask me that. I was not prepared for that.
Oh, that's a roller coaster.
I was gonna say we're gonna ramp up real quick here, I think.
No, it's I don't know. The fun part about kind of having a little season one is like I've played around with the structure of these and it's like I said, there's some bumps, there's some valleys.
Yeah, for sure.
We're scratching more than just the surface here today.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
What's your relationship like with your family?
With my family, it's good. It's certainly not what it could be at times, but overall, net positive. Like me and my mom, pretty close. I'm not telling her my deepest, darkest secrets, but like enough to like keep a pretty strong familial relationship. Same with my dad. I mean, like, I feel like with like sons and fathers, like there's just like a certain like, ugh, like I'm doing okay. How are you, father? I'm also doing okay. Like that, but at the end of the day, we still manage to like check in and like make sure things are going fine. Whether it's like gabbing about like beer or like the newest like sci-fi fantasy show or book to come out, like we'll catch up then. And then my brothers, they're all doing their own thing. Me and my brothers are very different people. So like getting together and like catching up with them is sometimes just kind of like, what have you been up to? Oh, I've been like my brother in Chicago, he's a DJ, he loves sports. Like, so he's like, been doing some cool gigs, full-time work is like, meh, all sports have been great. I'm like, okay, music, that's great. I know a lot about music, but we don't listen to the same kind. That's fine. You can still respect it. Sports, all right, great. And then work, I don't have a full-time job, so like, hope it's going well. And then same with my younger brother, who's at Miami now. He's like, I'm like, how's school going? He's like, great, we had a cool party for our frat the other day. And I'd be like, I wasn't in a frat, and I didn't like go to many frat parties, so like, hope it was cool, and like, nothing bad happened. So like, that's like kind of my family's interesting because as everyone's kind of spread out and doing their own things, there's a lot less communication, and except for like a very like niche few things that we happen to have in common.
Yeah.
So like between my brothers and I, it's like typically music. Like if something with music is happening, we'll like be like, yo, like did you see that like DJ Khaled dropped like a really gross album? Like and we're like, yeah, that was stupid. I haven't listened to it. I just assumed it was gross.
I mean, but he's the best music.
I don't like. I've
Major Key.
There's like videos that I like have all of like the very stupid ad libs that he did like on that album, and like that's the only thing I know is that there's just like really weird like ad libs on there.
There was one where it was five producer tags as well as like. You know, DJ Khaled, We the Best Music, God Did, all this.
God Did? Like, what is that?
Dude, I don't know, like, because apparently, like, he doesn't produce most of the music. It's usually, like, other producers, and, like, I don't know if, like, I don't know what he does.
I don't either. I don't get it. I don't know how he accrued his wealth or maintains it. And I don't get it. And I never will. But, yeah, it's strange. But yeah, and then like me and my parents, I see my mom a lot because I live with my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
So like she is constantly like around because my grandmother's old. She goes to a lot of doctor's appointments. I don't always take her to like the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So like I see her a lot just from that, and it's kind of a similar thing where we're just catching up. She tells me to cut my hair a lot and typically has a lot of opinions about how I live my life, but it's kind of like respectfully, like stop.
From a good place.
Like don't do it anymore.
I
But I can acknowledge that we grew up in two very different worlds, so it's kind of like no wonder you are stressed out about me talking about like maybe being like a writer, like because it just like doesn't make sense. Even by today's standards, that's something very difficult to do. But yeah, and then I'm pretty close with a lot of like my cousins too. Whenever we get together, we typically have a pretty good list of like things to like check in on. So I see my mom's side of the family much more than my dad's just because of like proximity. But yeah, and then I live with my grandmother, which has been a fantastic experience, filled with both like a lot of like strife, but also like a lot of really great moments because as my grandmother is an immigrant, her English is bad, and she's very like just like an anxious like old person.
Mm-hmm.
And so just merely by having those like pretty like base level differences between like a very Americanized young like grandson, like there's a lot of like, I say conflict loosely, but like there's just like a lot of contradiction of like ways of thinking and like how do you approach the world.
Yeah.
That is like hysterical like after the fact, but in the moment it's like I don't know how to tell you like what I do at work. Because like I tell her like I work at a museum that specializes with like cartoon art, and she's like what do you mean? And I'm like, well, like you know what art is, right? And she's like, yeah, I know what art is. Like there's like drawings, and I'm like, okay, I work at a place that like puts them on display, and she's like, why? Like how does that make money? I'm like, well, like it's not necessarily that it makes money, like it's not for profit, and then I'm like, okay, this isn't going anywhere. Yeah. All you need to know is that I work with art, and she's like, oh great, that's so cool, and then or even just like trying to explain like I'm on my computer and I'll be like playing a video game, and she's like, how is your class going? And I'm like, this is not class, like don't get it twisted. But even then when I'm doing like work. Even if it's like 9 p.m., like a lot of like students just wait until the evening to do work. Yeah. She's like, why aren't you asleep? And I'm like, dude, it's 9 p.m. Like I'm not going to bed. I'm not you.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, my relationships with the most of my immediate family is pretty unique in that everyone has a lot of different personalities and there's not a lot of crossover, but like still managing to make it work. Could it like be stronger? Absolutely. But like we get by.
Yeah.
Considering the state of like a lot of the world and everyone's very quickly changing scenarios, like it's kind of like we're all just trying to keep up with our own lives, like keeping up with each other. Like we falter in places, but like we pick up the slack. So,
Yeah.
but they're like family, so like you kind of like let them make their mistakes and like kind of like just turn the other way and be like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah. I think as long as you're happy with your relationship, that's all that matters. I mean, like,
Yeah.
I got to like college and I like looked at like Shannon, like her family, and they were just like all like one big like Brady Bunch kind of thing, and like, I mean that like sure that's like might be a thing, but like it's I don't know, like theoretically, like you said, like like it could be like that, but not everyone needs to be like that, like.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at people like that who are like, like best buds. They're like, they'll be like, my mom's my best friend. And be like, I've caught myself being envious of that at times, but also at the same time, if you look at like, on paper, the things that my mom likes and that I like, there's no commonality at all.
Mm-hmm.
But like, we still manage to like make it work and enjoy each other's company and find some amount of fulfillment out of our relationships. So like, but yeah, I get what you mean. It's just like, it doesn't always work that way, because even like me and my brothers, we're all 3 years apart, but like 3 years is enough to like change pretty drastically the environments in which we grew up in and like went through school and the peers that we had. So like they're all very unique experiences, even though we were like in the same house.
Yeah.
Because like if you think about it, like my older brother, he grew up with 2 younger brothers. Like that's pretty different than like my younger brother who grew up with 2 older brothers.
Yeah.
Like there's just lessons there that like one person's going to get that the other is not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you mean with like the Brady Bunch stuff. It's not, my family does not have that, and that's totally fine, because honestly it sounds kind of annoying at times.
No, I mean like all the long car trips with like 5-7 people in the car, like. I mean, like, we have 5-person family, so like, maybe not that terrible, but like
we did it, but it wasn't like, we're not like singing. It's not like Step Brothers where you're like stuck harmonizing on the way to like a dinner or something like that.
Yeah, everyone was at after a while, like you put me in a car with anyone for however many hours, and things are gonna happen. You know, like
someone's gonna piss someone off, and then it'll de-escalate, and then everyone like by the time you get out of the car, you're just like, all right, we're good. Let's keep moving.
Let's just move on.
It's literally, it's like say nothing, just move on.
Yeah,
it's like, all right, I'm sure that'll come up in the future at some point, but for now, we'll put it on the back burner.
Yeah, no, I mean someone's gonna have it as a back pocket thing eventually. But...
Oh yeah, easily just whip that out at the most disadvantageous whatever time. And like really like, dude, damn, why'd you have to pull that one out?
What I really hate is like when you're like winning an argument with someone and then they'll pull out something that's completely unrelated.
It's like not related, yeah.
They're like, but like why'd you do this thing? I was like,
that has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now.
But here's the thing, you're winning an argument when people start pulling out unrelated things. Like
that's when you just gotta walk away. You're like, I won. Like you just admitted defeat.
Yeah. Like. You don't want, like, if you stay, it turns into a whole other argument, but I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with that, honestly.
No, I'm following you, believe it or not.
What's your most unique talent?
My most unique talent? Honestly, this has become very aware to me. That's when I started living with my grandmother, but I think that I'm a very patient person. Like I have, like the threshold of like BS and like other nonsense that I can endure before being like, I'm done with this, is like, it's been made aware to me through being with people who are not as patient. And like, so like being at work and being able to be like, like I can sit through a few hours of like training and then be like, all right, like I'm ready for the next one, and then be like, you're not like tired? No, I'm fine. Or they'll be like, hey, like the other week at work, they were like, there was like a guy who came in and he was like, hey, like my wife, very old, memory issues, she's not here. Like, can you help me find her? And I'm the only guy at work, so they're like, could you go check all of the bathrooms just to make sure like she didn't get confused and go in one? And I was like, yeah, sure, like why wouldn't I do that? And then like that was the entire rest of my day, and by the end of it they were like, thank you so much for your help, like it was so nice of you to do that. And I was like, why wouldn't I do that? Like, and also, why would I get annoyed by that? And they were like, you'd be surprised how many other people would have lost their patience with it and just like not helped. And I was like, okay, if you say so. Or even like going with my grandmother, like my cousins will be like, dude, I don't know how you do it. Like, it's crazy. And I'm like, she's my grandma, like why wouldn't I do it? And I think it's just because I grew up, I don't know, I feel like my parents were like, especially like in a house, like with like 3 boys, I think the threshold or like room for error was just smaller because of like we're all guys, so we're expected to just like be awesome all the time, I guess. I don't know. I don't know if that's just like a guy thing or it was just like a my house kind of thing, but there were so many times where I was like, man, like everything would be fine if you just like chilled out for 2 seconds or like gave us a little bit of grace. And so like, I don't know, I feel, and just generally like people happen to like get like clamped down on for like very small things, even like if they have no control over it. And I was like, we might as well give them some amount of like grace and like give them a second to collect themselves. Yeah, and I also could just like sit in a room quietly. Like if like, I'm pretty sure if there was an experiment done to like test it and someone was like, hey, I need to run to the bathroom real quick, or like I need to work on this project, could you wait here until I finish? I would probably, if I didn't have anything else going on that day, I would probably sit there for like 8 hours easily. Even if I had like I always carry a book on me nowadays, but like even if I had a book, it's like shit, I'll kick my feet up in whatever chair and just like chill.
Yeah.
Cause like, I don't know, I enjoy like slower, calmer moments where I can just like relax, because considering how fast life is getting nowadays, I'm like, I'd love to sit down and do nothing. But when it comes to patience, I think that has been made aware to me in almost like any like personal, professional, spiritual scenario, like any facet of life. I've always had someone be like your like patience is appreciated, and I'd be like, okay. Great. I'm glad I could wait. Like I don't think it's that unique, but maybe it is. I don't know. But yeah, I think patience is one thing that I've been told a lot as of lately. Like, you know, like thank you for being patient is something that I hear a lot, and I'm just like, okay. I don't know if that means that I'm like a pushover or it just means that I can wait a long time without getting bored. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that means, because it could easily just be like I'm a pushover and like now I have a cool strength. I don't know.
I don't think it's a pushover thing. I mean, I think like, I don't know, I grew up playing golf, so you know, like I had to like learn patience, but then like now just like if the fucking remote's like not responding immediately, like lose my shit.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. I've always appreciated like good patience. I mean, patience is a virtue, you know.
Right.
Like patience isn't like a bullshit thing, you know.
Yeah.
So it also like comes from, it sounds like a good place too, you know, like of, you know, or being like mindful of others and like, you know, like realizing that like they're going through whatever and just allowing them to do what they need to do. You know?
Yeah, that's like honestly mostly where it comes from, which is why I'm always like pretty cool to like let it slide, because there's like God knows how many times I've like messed up just like doing something stupid, and like if I would have had like a little bit of like leeway, I could have saved like myself and a lot of other people's like some trouble. But so it's honestly more of just been like I recognize how much stress it can cause someone, so if I can like alleviate that a little bit, like it's great. But yeah, I don't know, it's great. I think it's a bit, I feel like it's kind of a cop-out answer, but I'll take it.
There's no such thing as a cop-out answer.
I guess so. You would know better than I do as a podcast host. So
for me, it's like the thing I'm surprised. Like one of the things I was surprised most about this so far is just like unique talents, like outside of Evan with Rubik's Cubes, I don't know if anyone's had like an actual like physical talent. It's always been like aspects about yourself, which is not something I expected at all. There's been a lot of surprises on answers on this, but that's definitely one of
Dude,
those
I've got plenty of like useless talents like and skills like that. I don't know if they're like unique or valuable, but I've got them. I'm pretty bad at like there's an old video game that I've been playing. It's like 10 years old or something. Called Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, the Blizzard or
MOBA. Yeah. I play that and I'm pretty good at it, but like is it helpful at all? No. There's no competitive scene. Like there's nobody to play with, hardly. And like I'm fucking good at it. Like I'm good.
Hell yeah.
I'm nice at it. But shit, it doesn't mean a lot. So
at the end of the day, like, you know, in however many years when we're all dead, like I don't know how much these skills are really gonna be useful.
Dude, maybe sometime they're gonna be like, I'm gonna be on a plane and they'll be like, oh my gosh, like we're going down and we need someone who's really good at like a MOBA that's been dead for like 25 years. Like, is there a gold rank like Heroes of the Storm player on this plane? But like,
save that shit.
I'm a third like gold 3 like tank main in Heroes of the Storm, and like I'll save the day. But like I don't know if that's coming anytime soon.
What were you doing when you first got the news of COVID?
Dude, well, I was at home. It was spring break. The day before. So when COVID like was first breaking out, like news was coming over, and like there was stuff on the news for like probably like a good few months, but like I never paid attention because I didn't watch the news. And so I had just, the day before, I had gone to Smucker headquarters and like met my manager who I was going to be working with that summer, got the tour. They were like, this desk, it's going to be yours. Like and I was like, dude, this is sweet. And I met like all my coworkers and like got some like cool swag, and they were like, you can wear this into the office. And I was like, yes. And the next day, I got the email from Ohio State, was like, hey guys, don't come back to school. And I was like, what is COVID? And like, I literally like had to like, then I had that whole day was just me like, being like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah.
This is really bad. And then with the following weeks, like we had like the quarantine and lockdown. School still went on, like so, but like I fully moved into like my parents' like basement and set up my work down there. And yeah, that's like I literally had no idea what COVID was and like why it was an issue. Like I didn't know if it was like, you know, the next, like if this was gonna be like a zombie outbreak kind of plague, or you know, kind of what it was still horrible, but for the majority of people, like if you got it, you were sick, if at all.
Yeah.
And then that. So the severity, I was one thing where I was like, I have no idea. And like, cause a lot of like, I knew a few people, especially like in those first few months, they were like, yeah, we're in lockdown, but like, we can still like kick it like with like 25 people in our basement, like have a party. And I was like, guys, I don't know if we should be doing that. It didn't, like, I was like, you guys do what you gotta do, I'm gonna not. So, like, I didn't. But it was, it was so strange, because it seems like no matter where you went, someone had a different take on it, so it was very hard to, like, get it, like, give me, like, the skinny, be like, this is it, like, baseline, that's it.
Yeah.
And not have, like, some weird twist on it, where people are like, I think it's alright, or, like, oh, like, I knew for a while, like there was people, like I got messages from like old people on Facebook, and they were like, don't take ibuprofen. Like if you take ibuprofen and you get COVID, like you will die. And I was like, I don't know if that's a thing or not. Like you just tell me this, and like I could look it up and see like this weird newspaper article that is like, yeah, you will die. And I'm like, I don't know if that's like true though. And a lot of weird stuff. But yes, I was at home with my parents, and they were like, and I got that email, and I was just like, guess I'm not going back. And then I stayed there for like the next like half a year or something.
Yeah. How was that, by the way?
Honestly, it was pretty pleasant. Doing school from home was kind of a joke, cause like
Yeah.
there were no bars against like, you know, getting help from places where you probably shouldn't or not supposed to get help.
Yeah.
And then, you know, my mom cooked for me. Like I didn't have to eat like just like the Scott food was good, but compared to like my mother's home food, like home cooking, it's like it's
not factory produced like for millions of people.
Right, exactly. Like I'm not eating like the eggs from the bag.
Yeah.
I'm getting good eggs. And then yeah, but like we used to like it was so nice because like come the end of the work day, like my dad would work from home and like my mom was just like cleaning the house and like my little brother and we would go out in the backyard and like lay in the grass, like we'd lay a towel or like down or something. We would just like enjoy it because it was summertime.
Yeah.
We went from spring to summer and so like it was beautiful out. So we would just like kick it in the backyard. My dog would run around, crack open a beer or like a bottle of wine. And it was pleasant. And like we always had like on our kitchen table we had this like this like jigsaw puzzle put out all the time. And like so like if you were bored and like needed like 30 minutes of a break, you would just go do it. And like if someone was there, like you could pop down with like your dad, brother, mom, and just like crank it out for a little bit, turn on some music. Then you know it's dinner time. Everyone doesn't have anywhere to be, so like you have family dinner. So yeah, it was pleasant. Like it was very stressful just because of like a lot of the outside things that were happening. But like from like a bubble perspective, it was quite pleasant. Not too many issues, but yeah, it was great. I enjoyed it a lot.
That sounds like a fun, wholesome time between you five.
Very wholesome.
Was your older brother back or?
No, my older brother he was at he had graduated and he was living in Chicago at the time. I think, but I'm pretty sure that's was the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he definitely wasn't there. I don't know. That's bad. I should probably know, but I'm pretty sure he was in Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the very least for you four, you know, fun family bonding for.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you moved back out to college. Your little brother, was he in high school at the time?
He was in high school, yeah.
So I guess getting back into high school, but you know, like. That one last like big family bonding time before the world happens.
That's like the way I view it. Is that like this weird pocket of time where like, it's not to say that like nothing mattered like outside, but like everyone kind of like had the same expectation where it was like if you got stuff going on like it's crazy times, do your thing.
Yeah.
Which is like a very like privileged place to come from, but like it was the place where I was at, so I tried to make the most of it.
So damn, I wanted that to be cool.
It's okay. I think it was cool.
Appreciate it. What's your relationship like with your religion?
I'm not religious. I grew up so like from birth until high school. The only church that I went to was Macedonian Orthodox Church, like on the big holidays, if that. Macedonian, the church we went to, they spoke Macedonian, which I do not speak. So it was kind of like you pulled up in fancy garb, sat there for an hour where like this old guy sang at you for like an hour and a half, ate some bread, and then left. And I had no idea, it didn't have any role in my life other than it was a nuisance, honestly, which is probably a bad way of looking at it, and something I had not considered up until this point. And then I went to high school at St. Ignatius, Catholic school, not Catholic, so I partaked in all of the activities that they did, but like I didn't take communion. And there was not really a prejudice against anyone who wasn't, because like you didn't have to be Catholic. That was by far the overwhelming majority, but like out of like the 1,250 people at the school, like at a given time, probably 100 of them were not Catholic. And like ran the gambit. It wasn't even just like Orthodox, like Christianity. It was like Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam, like all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So I subscribed to a lot of the sort of moral alignments that were taught at the school.
Yeah.
Just because a lot of them were like, be nice to your neighbor, like give back to the community, be kind and generous.
Yeah.
Like that stuff, I was like, I'm already doing that stuff. Like that's so great. Like of course I'm gonna do that. But when I got into like the more ritualistic stuff, like that came along with like baptism, communion, even like confession, I was just like, this is kind of like weird. Like I don't get it. Like it's because it's kind of hard to, because I mean no matter what, like where you went for like Catholicism, you go to any source to say like, here's why we know that there is a God. It's either a personal anecdote or the story ends with like, it's a leap of faith. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of like, okay, I can get there. I got up to the edge. One would even argue that at some point I had taken the leap, but like somehow reversed it. And like once I graduated, I was just kind of like, I'm not in an institution that requires me to like do this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And once I removed myself, I kind of continued to follow the sort of, again, like the sort of moral, like goodness that comes along with learning Catholicism at a young age without ever having experienced it. Because I remember even like being in a theology class, like freshman, first year theology, first semester, you do like, it's just straight up Bible study. And like, so we went through Genesis and like Exodus. And I was reading this, literally, I was like, I'd never heard any of these stories before. And like, everyone else was like, ugh, this sucks, and this is so boring. And I'd be like, I don't know what any of this stuff is.
It's news to me.
It's like, literally, I was like, this is news to me. Like shit, like, wow, this is cool. But then I just kind of got it, like, I removed myself from an institution that requires, like, you do these things. And I was kind of like, I'm not really getting fulfillment from any of those, like, the ritual parts of it. And honestly, most of, like, my devotion to any sort of religious entity was just more from my passion to, like, do good onto the world, not necessarily through the guise of, like, it's all in the name of Jesus. For me, it was just like, I think you are a human being, thus I want to be able to like respect you and help you out. So like it drove me, like my religion, the best thing it did for me while I was at Ignatius is that it drove me to do like service and just consider like the other person. And so like that was by far like the best thing that being religious taught me, was just like having a good set of morals and knowing how to treat other people with respect. But like ever since I went to school, it was never something I did, like the religious stuff. Like I joined Mount because I was like, I know I'm not gonna be like forced to do like service stuff. So like I want to be in a group that is like puts that forward. And like Mount was great for me because I was like, I can do service and like help the community, but I don't need to do a lot of like I don't have to like fake the religious stuff, because I mean at Ignatius I faked most of it.
Yeah.
Like I was in like every day we had like a reflection, we called it, and it was like between 6th and 7th period, I think. And it was basically like a 15-minute like prayer where like everyone stopped and just reflected. And I was like, that's great, because you could think about like you could choose to listen and like and like ask the questions and like go through the reflection.
Yeah.
You could be mindful in any other way, which is like a great exercise, period.
Yeah.
Or you just like take a 15-minute nap. Like that's kind of what it was, because like there would be times when like the bell would ring and reflection was over, and I would literally be like jump and like wake up, and I was like, this is so strange. But But now I'm not. I don't subscribe to any religion or follow anything like that. If I ever go to any gathering of any sort, it's always as a spectator. Like unless they ask like of I need to do something. Like if it's like a funeral, if I'm a pallbearer or something, or I'm asked to speak a few words or something. Like sure, I'll do it. But I don't have any religious relationship as it stands now.
Yeah. I think it's interesting also from the podcast is there are a lot of people that have grew up religious or maybe not so religious, but like a lot of people find that the morals are the really good part that you can really follow. It's just the other stuff like you said those leaps of faith or those anecdotes or those stories or there's always a line between being a good person and doing the religious-y stuff.
Yeah. Like the whole fire and brimstone thing was always in fear of God. Like that was something I was always like, dude, if there is an all omnipotent, omniscient power out there, I'm already scared.
Yeah.
Like I don't need to have that reinforced. Like I don't want to do anything out of fear. And then also be expected to be like, I love God, but also he could wipe my ass out. Like that sounds so weird.
Yeah.
And if you put that guys that sort of lens on any relationship that isn't just between people, toxic as hell. That is a bad relationship. So I don't know, it's not for me. But yeah, I could imagine that. Just knowing the similar peers that we have, I bet there's some interesting stories in there.
What is your biggest regret?
Luckily, up until this point in my life, I've not done a lot of stuff that I've lived to regret. I have one. There's this one thing that is ate at me forever.
Mm-hmm.
But in a moment of weakness, when I was in middle school, I was in a class, and there was a girl in there who was the butt end of every joke. And I once in class made a joke about her being fat, and it made her cry, and I never was able to apologize to her. It's not that I never was able to, I just couldn't bring myself to do it because I don't know.
Shame,
guilt, a lot of stuff. But every once in a while, I'll be going about my day, and I'll think about her. Her name was Sam. She was very pleasant. And I'm always been damn, if I could find her again, I would apologize. Because just knowing and hearing from people people and hearing them talk about middle school and high school, that stuff sticks with people. So that's by far I don't think that I have a lot of regrets that I've not somehow been able to make them right or make the most of it.
Mm-hmm.
But that is one that I was that'll sit with me forever. Because it's a really weird and strange one.
I don't think it's strange. I mean, I think that if you knowing that you did something wrong and just the fact that you said for one reason or another you were just never able to right your wrong just kind of sits with you. It's I don't know. Yeah.
It's a pain. It's a painful reminder. There's no way if I ever did it again, that is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Just from my own standards, and holding myself accountable for that stuff. So if nothing else, it is a painful reminder that regardless of who you're with or who you're trying to impress, putting someone else down for the sake of a joke is not okay. But that is probably my biggest regret, or at least the one that I can muster up in this time.
I gotcha. Yeah. I mean, cameras a lot of pressure.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah. What are you most worried about?
The thing I've been most worried about, as of lately, is what I'm going to be doing post-grad. Because I have a lot of different ways that I can take it, and I'm not sure how to do it, or even if it'll work out. So I did a lot of work with music festivals this summer.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to continue doing that, one, it would depend on whether they want to bring me back for future projects or not. I've been told that they do. There's nothing set in stone for them to like continue to want me back though.
It's like a handshake.
Yeah, like, you know, just because they're like, yeah, we want you back post grad, doesn't mean that something won't happen until that point that makes them like think otherwise. Like,
yeah.
You know, like there could be another wave of COVID or another random disease that like requires that there's no more music festivals or other events.
Yeah.
So that's a worry, but also I'm just like not familiar with like how freelance and like contracted work works. Like I just don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is like something I can control. Like I can easily like rectify that by just doing some research. I haven't yet, so that's why it's been stressing me out.
Yeah.
But I've also I've wanted to continue to do writing and take it a little bit more seriously, and I think doing freelance work could enable me to do so.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's just one of those things where like it's so vague and ambiguous about how people go about like even getting things published. I don't really care about that too much. Like it'd be nice to have people be like, at the very least be like, I really enjoyed reading this and it made a difference. As opposed to me just like shitting stuff back into the universe and just like having it float there and not mean anything.
Yeah.
Like that sucks. Because if there's one thing like this past summer has taught me is that like who and what I am working for like would dictate whether or not I'm going to dread doing it the next day. Because like at Smucker I was very comfortable, the work was not hard, and I was getting paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
But I hated it, and a lot of the worry that comes along with now trying to figure out what this plan could look like is convincing those around me that like it's not a bad thing. Like I'm not like by any means like selling out or like giving up. It's not like that it is any less reputable than like any other random corporate job I can get. Mm-hmm. Because in a lot of ways it is a very corporate job because you are literally at the whim of these big, because it's all sponsorship work.
Yeah.
So like if the sponsor says something and they don't like it, you have to do it differently. Yeah. So like trying to educate people on that and like how that will look is huge, but it's also moving forward with that is going to impact essentially every relationship and put strain on it. So like it'll look different for like my grandmother, because it's like, oh, am I gonna continue to live with her for a while? Am I gonna move out immediately? Like what's that gonna look like? Yeah. For my girlfriend, like are we gonna move in together? Am I gonna continue to have my own place but then also still spend half the time at her place? My parents, like, are they gonna accept it? Are they gonna like try and like cut me off for something because they don't agree with it? Like there's just like a lot of like moving parts with it, and like seeing that as a whole is very worrying. So that's like definitely been on the foremost of like on the foreground of all of that I've been doing. But at the same time I have a blast doing it all. Mm-hmm. So like there's just like a lot of like these sort of little administrative things that I need to work through in order to like make it happen. So like it'll come together with time, but it's not gonna stop me from worrying at all about the stuff that I have to do and worry about.
I think that, you know, like having to like knowing that like the future is like this big step and like all the things that come with it, I think that's a completely valid worry. So
mm-hmm. It makes sense. In short, it's just the future, which is basically everyone worries about that. So,
what is the hardest thing that's happened to you this past year?
I got broken up with, which was probably the hardest part, which is strange now because I have a new girlfriend. Mm-hmm. The timeline is it's a little dicey, but I don't know if it was exactly a year. It
It
couldn't have. But anyways, it definitely wasn't. It was just a little bit, probably like a year and a half, 2 years. But I got broken up with, and it kind of came out of nowhere. My girlfriend, she went on a trip for a month. And then when she got back, she basically immediately broke up with me, which sucked. Because again, like while she was gone, it was all like, oh my gosh, like I miss you so much, like I can't wait to get back, I'm having so much fun here. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's great, can't wait to get you back, I'm waiting. And then she broke up with me, which sucked. Because this was also like middle of COVID, or like at least slowly getting to the tail end. Like things weren't opened up. Like just enough opened up to where you could like fly somewhere, but even when they got back, it was like, bro, like chill. But I got broken up with. It sucked. I had experienced heartbreak before, so it wasn't anything new, but it didn't make it any easier.
Yeah.
Because since it was COVID, like I had been isolating myself from like a lot of my friends because she was immunocompromised.
Mm-hmm.
So simply just by not being able to be in the physical space with a lot of my friends, it just seemed to like deteriorate a little bit. It's kind of like it was weird because I was having like long distance relationships with people that like are not far from me at all.
Yeah.
It's what it felt like. And then she broke up with me and I was kind of like, wow, this sucks. Because now a lot of the people that I was keeping at distance for the sake of my girlfriend are still at distance, and the person I was doing it for is no longer here anymore.
Yeah.
But it's enabled me to sort of get back in touch with people a lot, which has been fantastic. Yeah. And like one of the nicer things to come out of that breakup. And I think simply because of it ending, I was able to learn a lot about what I need from relationships, whether that be romantic or just like friends. But definitely that was the hardest part. But it also helped me find a new girlfriend, which was great. Yeah. She is great. So
glad to hear it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It really sounds like you found your silver linings from.
Certainly. Yeah. I try and do that because I don't know. I've not been one to like dwell on the past all that much. Because I mean, I can look back on it now, and I was like, by no means was that like a like spotless relationship. Like there were a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
As to just like incompatibilities, but as someone who was like in love for like the first time and totally enraptured, I was like, obviously you're not gonna like see that until you've been like slapped in the face.
Yeah.
But yes, I've found the silver lining, I'd like to think, and still learning from it, but that was the hardest thing, definitely.
What's something that made you laugh really hard recently?
My grandmother, living with her, it makes me laugh so much, because there's just so many like disconnects, like miscommunications that end up being like really funny.
Yeah.
Like I already mentioned it, but like with me being on my computer, she just assumes that I'm working or reading. And so she'll be like, you read too much, like you're reading too much. Like even if it's just like for fun, like a book, like I'm reading.
Yeah.
She's just like, you read too much, like you need to stop and rest. And I was like, this is how I rest. Like, what are you talking about? Or like sometimes, you know, I'll work downstairs in the kitchen just to like be around her. And she'll start talking to me, and I'll be like, look, I can't concentrate with you talking to me. I'm just going to go upstairs and get some work done. She'll be like, okay, that's fine. And then where I have my like little like setup, like I have a table. It's probably about like the width of this room. So like my desk is on the opposite wall, and then there's like a couch like where we're sitting. And what she'll do is that she'll come up and she'll sit in the couch behind like the desk and just kind of like sit there silently and just like watch me do work. And then she'll be like, oh, how is school? And I'll be like, it's good. And then she'll be like, how's Claire? She's great. And then I keep going, and then she'll be like, I'm sorry, am I bothering you? And I'll be like, no, like you're okay. It's just like I'm trying to get some work done. It's hard if you're talking. she'll be like, okay, I'm sorry, I'll stop. And then she'll continue to sit there, and I'm working. And then like 2 minutes later, she'll be like, are you hungry yet? And it's like, no! And then she'll be like, I'm sorry, I'm being a bother. And then she'll like continue to do that. I'll just like bring something up, sorry, I'm a bother. So, keep going. And so like looking back on it, it's like, that's like straight out of a movie or something. Or like even the other day, like Queen Elizabeth died.
Yeah.
And she came outside. I was mid-workout, I'm jumping rope. And she's like, I got a call, like Cleta died. And I was like, who? She was like, oh, Cleta died. And I was like, do I know? Like, I'm thinking this is like a distant Macedonian relative.
Yeah.
Like someone who's still in this like motherland. And I was like, ooh, I don't know who that is. And she was like, Cleta, like Anglia. Cleta Anglia died. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And this was like after a long day of just going back and forth doing that cycle and just being like so done with it.
Yeah.
And she was like, I'm calling your aunt. Like, she'll know how to tell you. And I was like, don't call her. Like, this is not urgent. I want to finish this workout. I'm in the middle of a set. Like, this is not what we're doing.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, I won't bother you. I'll call her. And I was like, no. And then she calls. And then when she gets my aunt on the phone, and she's like, hey, like, what do you need? And I was like, I don't need anything. Baba wants you to tell me who died. I was like, who's Cleta Anglia? And she's like, no. Like, I told her Queen Elizabeth died. And I was like, and I looked at her and I was like, Baba, are you serious? Like, I know the Queen of England died. And and my aunt was like, I'm sorry. Like, she bothering you? I was like, no, it's not a big deal. Like, it's okay. But like we've had so many moments like that where it's like Cleta Anglia, and I was like, I don't know who Cleta Anglia is. And I was like, Queen of England. Okay, gotcha. Like that checks out now. So I've been getting a lot of laughs out of that, and if nothing else, my whole family's been getting a lot of laughs because they're like, because they get it. Like it's their own grandmother too, so like it's funny to hear those stories. But yeah, I've been getting a lot of laughs out of that.
Yeah, we need to throw some cameras on how to throw sitcom with you too. That's what I'm hearing.
It could be interesting. It's great material for like stories, because like if I ever need like to like talk about it, and like I've met a lot of people where like I lived with my grandmother for a while, or like my mom lived with my grandmother. It was the same thing. So it's like pretty unifying. There's a woman who works at Billy Ireland. Her name's Anne, and she's like a 60-something like Irish woman, and like we have like you'd think we have nothing in common, but like we always like talk about like her grandmother, like her mom, and then my grandmother. They like act the exact same way, so like we bond over that. So it's a fun bonding thing for sure. Like, and it's great for laughs. So
yeah, that's fun. Also, hydration is key. I'm glad that we've been getting that.
Yeah. Do you need your water?
Yeah. I can grab it. I do this every single episode where I'm like, I'm gonna bring my water so I can like actually have it, and then I always leave it right next to the camera. It's like I don't know how I made this bad habit.
It's okay.
It's a thing. But
It's alright.
who is your hero?
Dude, I thought of an answer for this. I thought of like, because every time I've been asked this question, I'm always like, it's my dad, which like he is in many respects, but like, I feel like there's always gonna be someone else there who like inspires you to do things in like specific ways, not just like as a general like life goal, but like in general. There's a few writers that are pretty big for me because it's just like my mind's on writing right now. But Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan are two big writers that are like heroes in the sense that like they give me more hope in that I can do stuff that they've managed to do successfully. Robert Jordan, he wrote the Wheel of Time series, which is like one of the more bigger fantasy epic series that exists. But as he wrote like probably like 10 of the books before they like broke out, if you will. But he wrote like a bunch of those books over the course of like many years while he worked as like a nuclear physicist. Wow. Or nuclear engineer. Like that was his like day job, but like this whole other time he made this like expansive like really cool world. similar to Brandon Sanderson, like he studied STEM and like computer technology for the longest time, and worked the night shift so like he could continue to write, and like broke out and made it happen. And like anyone who has a story like that where they were put in this box, or like it kind of looked like they were in this one place for the long haul, and then kind of felt this draw or this passion somewhere else and were able to make it work. Like a lot of those stories end up giving me hope for like the future, because to me, I'm like, I don't know if I want to do the same thing. Like I'm getting a stats degree. I'm probably not going to go into a field that requires a stats degree. So like the fact that I'm able like to see these people and say like, oh no, if this guy can do it, I can do it. Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson are definitely two that I've looked to a lot lately, just because I'm in the same field and I'm trying to essentially emulate exactly what they did.
Yeah.
But those two guys, I would say, are my heroes right now.
I'm glad to hear it. It sounds like like you, to your point, like you're using them as a compass to guide
Exactly.
yourself through these uncertain times.
I like that metaphor, because I feel like heroes, there's some sort of like connotation there where they're like, oh, like they saved me. It's like they didn't really save me per se, but like they're the blueprint essentially. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're the compass that is guiding me through like the very tumultuous time.
What's your favorite tradition?
I don't know if it's tradition, because I feel like tradition means that it happens like same time every year, typically. Mm-hmm. But going to Macedonian weddings, they're very traditional, I suppose, in the sense that a lot of them happen, like there's a lot of things that you typically see at like all of them. Yeah. So really fun music is always there. A lot of fun dancing, which is like always the draw. It's like you want to go for the dancing. Mm-hmm. But generally just like the very like friendly and like welcoming atmosphere where everyone shows up and they're not there for like because they've been pulled along, or because like my wife came so I have to go. Yeah. It's always like everyone's always there, but like we are ready to celebrate the love and union of these two people. Like that's what we're here to do, and we're gonna do it as much as we want. So that tradition there, and like kind of like what that is rooted in, is like always gets me so excited to go, because they're always fun for the first part, but then like they're always like coming from such a great place, because like it's nice to know that people care about you enough to invite them to like the union of two people, but also like I don't know, be reminded that there's a lot of people who care about you, I guess. Yeah. I don't know, but those are my favorite traditions.
It sounds like I gotta go to a Macedonian wedding. Those things.
If you can get to one, dude, it is a blast. It's so much fun. We had an engagement party like 2 weeks ago or something, and it was essentially like a small version of a Macedonian wedding. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Like it's gonna carry me for weeks. So just like the energy off that, it's electric. Like truly.
What's the best thing that's happened to you this past month?
Dude, probably that engagement party. Or honestly, no, I'm gonna switch that answer. Finding stability going into a semester where a lot of things changed for me has been what I'm happy about. Because like I moved in with my grandmother, I'm finishing up my last semester. Like those are two pretty big things to like happen in this sort of like transition period, like over the course of like 2 months essentially. And nothing horrible has happened. And like honestly, that's probably like the best thing to happen. Is that something like nothing's gone wrong. I also finished like a D&D campaign a few months back, and like I'd never done that before, and it was so cool. Like
I thought you either die or like it just like I didn't realize they finish.
Typically, yeah, I guess it's as long as there's like a group consensus where we're gonna have like the final boss fight, and then like everyone will wrap up and do their thing. Like, well, then yeah, it can end. So sick. Like we did like this long tournament arc and we wrapped it up, and it was super fun. We had like a big party to like finish it. We had friends like come and like do cameos and stuff, but it was super fun. So that's definitely up there. As like one of the better like something I'm very happy about. But I would say general answer is like nothing, the absence of bad things happening.
Not like finding your rhythm, like
exactly.
Instead,
yes.
like when things like look like they're gonna be like, changing so much, not having the rug pulled under you.
Exactly. It's been a lot of things where like, all right, I have had these plans set, and now I'm executing them, and nothing bad is happening. So it's like, great, my plans are going according to plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all according to plan.
Literally, and I'm like, I couldn't be happier.
What do you think your purpose is in life?
I don't think there is a purpose to anything that is happening. I think it is all randomness, nonsense. The universe was not created by a being. I think we were all just by the mere whims and chances of the universe that life was created, and that it's great, and that nothing means anything. However, I think that regardless of nothing having any consequence, not that it doesn't have consequences, but like, in 1,000 years, like what we do on a day-to-day basis probably isn't going to change anything.
Yeah.
By having nothing matter, also everything matters. In that, like, just because you like basically like give up to like the universe doesn't mean that you should just not do anything. So I think my purpose is to basically use the time and resources that I have now to basically do as much as I can for those who will probably make stuff matter in the future. So kind of like lay the like I don't believe that, it'd be nice to be one of the movers and shakers that like it perpetuates a better good throughout the universe, but I think my purpose, there's no like sort of clandestine like fate that I'm going to meet that like impacts a lot of people, but I think my general purpose is just that I've given myself essentially is to just make the world a better place. However I go about doing that, I don't know how I'll do that, but that's what I'm going to attempt to do. And generally make myself happy while I'm doing it, so I don't like end up on my deathbed like dreading that I wasted like the 80 or 90 years I ended up having in life.
Wow, that is
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird to think about. I all came out of Catholic education, believe it or not. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are you fulfilled?
Yeah, I am fulfilled. I think, especially with the way that my life is taking a turn now, I went through life kind of just like doing what everyone was expected of me, whether I liked it or not. If you would have asked me then, I would have told you I was super depressed, and I would have probably said nothing mattered, but not with like a little bit more of a positive wrap around things.
More like dark nihilist.
Exactly. And then, I finally said to myself, I was like, I'm going to start doing the things like, I always felt pulled to do more creative stuff and like work in the arts and entertainment. I never followed up on it. And doing that made things abysmal for me. Like it just sucked. Then as soon as I started doing them, I was like, hey, this makes me feel good. Like I enjoy doing this. I feel fulfilled. And I've been following a lot of those urges as of lately, and it's set me on a really nice course. And ultimately, it's left me feeling fulfilled. Whereas before, I did not. So I feel very fulfilled. Yeah, I feel very fulfilled.
I'm glad to hear it. I think that I think especially in like high school and kind of even college, there's like such a pressure to like fit in and like kind of learning how to like
fall in line.
But like learning more like to follow the beat of your own drum.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's the expression.
Yeah,
that sounds right. But like do what makes you happy, even if it like might not be the thing that everyone else is doing. Because at the end of the day, it's like you're the only one that has to be happy with yourself,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I started doing, like, following my own passions and stuff at first. The community that I built up around me until that point, like, there was just no one who was doing the same stuff that I did. But then over time, like, found people who, like, again, their drums beat similar to mine. So, yeah, I feel a lot more fulfilled now. But I agree with the sentiments you talked about high school and college.
Where do you see yourself going in the next 5 years, both personally and professionally? More towards the personal side, I guess.
Yeah, I want to continue to do work in the arts and entertainment. I don't know what or where or how, but I want to keep doing it. So far, it's kind of, I've talked about the few paths that I've already, like, started on, but between, like, music festivals, cartoon art, and then writing, those are the three paths that I've just kind of let them be open and see what happens. Like, I'm just going to continue to do what feels right. And personally, that honestly ties in a lot personally, because that's stuff that I just feel naturally drawn to doing. So I'm going to keep doing it, filling, like, my time with things that I like to do, people that I like to see, and just continuing to follow these sort of green pastures that I've happened to stumble upon as of late.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to 5 years from now, Jeff.
Yeah, I genuinely have no idea what he's gonna look like.
I don't think anyone really knows what 5 years from now is.
Right, but it's exciting to see, because before, I would be like, what are you doing in 5 years? I would have been like, ish, I don't know if I like the direction this is going, but like, now I'm like, oh, that guy's gonna be probably pretty weird. But, like, I'm excited to see what he looks like. He's probably gonna be cool. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. What do you want to have done by the next time we film another podcast episode? I don't know when that is. I'm saying 3+ years from now.
Yeah, that would be that's so interesting to think about. I think a cool goal to have, like, accomplished in that time is get a book in print that has my name on it. Whether that's me just, like, binding it myself or, like, paying someone like at a steep cost to, like, do it for me. But I think just, like, having, like, a piece of work and that, like, has my name on it, like, would be so cool. I think that would be so cool. And then being able to reflect on that would be so much fun.
It'd be awesome.
Yeah.
If when you do end up putting that book out, let me know, because I'm gonna be the first person at my library to be reading every single copy at once.
I'll be sure to send you the PDFs in advance so you get a little bit earlier.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up the conversational part of this podcast.
Okay.
Winding down, I just got some few quick hitters for you.
Sure.
First thing that comes to mind, it takes some time if you need to think it, but
yeah,
try
yeah,
to think it.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, this is a moment in the mind of Jeffrey David Elkold.
Okay.
What's a song that's been stuck in your head recently?
Ooh, I've been listening to March of the Black Queen by Queen a lot. It's off Queen, their second album, Queen 2. It's one of those like rock fantasy, like, ballads, like, that just, like, goes a lot of different ways throughout the song. That's been a song. Yeah.
What's your favorite quote or lyric?
There's a quote by Ursula Le Guin, who is the author of the Wizard of Earthsea series, that I couldn't recite off the top of my head, but she basically talks about the difference of a life of being and a life of doing, where, in a life of doing, you just kind of do things aimlessly for the sake of doing them, and then you end up not happy because you just did stuff and you look back and you're like, why did I do that?
Yeah.
And if you live a life of being, you be the stuff, everything that you want to and believe, and then when you get to that same spot you would have been by doing, you look back and you're like, I was so happy to have been that person. But that's the quote. But it's from The Farthest Shore is the book that is called. Book 3 in the Wizard of Earthsea series.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
You have to check that out.
It's a fantastic book. She did everything that J.K. Rowling did for Harry Potter, like, many years before that she did Harry Potter.
Yeah. Has there been an adaptation of it, or is it just still books?
I think there's a Studio Ghibli film about it actually.
Really?
I've heard that it's not good, which is tough. But the books are very small and they're very simple. So like they're simple, but they're very wise. But I would consider reading it.
Yeah.
They're not hard reads.
Yeah, I'll be adding that to my reading list for sure.
Yeah.
One of my favorite parts about this, I think a lot of these other questions is like just adding these to like songs
Right.
list
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
this side the other.
Books. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, what's the best show or movie you've seen in the past month?
I saw Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Love that book or movie.
Yeah, it was kick ass. Like genuinely, like it brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
And I think about it. I think about the Everything Bagel. Like the fact that they let someone like write that into like a script is fucking awesome.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It's one of my favorite movies I've seen in a long time. And the fact that like, the other thing for me is like the fact that it's like a original movie. It's not like
It's not.
a sequel, reboot, this, that, the other. Like,
It's such a breath of fresh air.
yeah. What's the best thing you've binged recently?
I've been binging. I binge. It's the D&D show Critical Role.
Mm-hmm.
Every time when I'm at work, I always listen to it while I'm working. Because I'm just able to. But yes, Critical Role. I've been binging. But other than that, I've just been reading mostly. I don't really been keeping up with TV shows at all.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
Speaking of reading, what's the best book you read recently?
There's too many. I read, I really have enjoyed, it's called the Stormlight Archive. It's a series of books by Brandon Sanderson. It's just like thick fantasy epics. And like, if you really just want to like sink your teeth into a really well developed like fantasy setting, Stormlight Archive.
Yeah. Be checking that out too.
Crazy good.
What's your current most recent job?
I've been working at the Billy Ireland. Yeah.
Do you want kids, and if so, how many?
I don't want to have kids for the next like 15 years probably, and if I do, I will probably have 2 or 3.
Gotcha. What's your favorite spot to eat nearby, whether it be sit down or fast food?
Dude, like my grandma's house, like straight up Blacklick, Ohio. It is by far the best bite of any food, even compared to all the food that I've had in Columbus. It goes inexplicably hard, like dangerously hard. She's the main reason I've been packing on pounds as of lately, is because she just makes stupid good food. But yeah, my grandma's house.
Dude, I gotta get some of your grandma's.
You come over, you do like an hour or 2 of manual labor in the yard, and then you get fed. Like that's the exchange.
That's the key to my heart. I give and then I take your food.
You give and you take the food.
Yeah. What's something you think is underrated?
What do I think? I think books are pretty underrated. More writing shit. But yeah, I think books are underrated. Just in, like the form is underrated.
I gotcha. What's your biggest hot take?
Hot take. Marvel sucks. It's just repeated. It's
like as a whole, or
the movies, like everything.
Oh yeah.
Everything after, I would even say coming up to Infinity War is tough. Infinity War is just like a hype fest, so like that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But like they're not doing anything groundbreaking with storytelling outside of bringing a lot of movies in and doing like a combined effort. But other than that, every Marvel movie that has come out since probably like Captain America and the Winter Soldier, everything after that, I've been so apathetic about. I just couldn't give a shit. And I think actually they're bad.
That is a hot take, yeah. Because like I know a lot of people like said since Endgame they didn't spin their wheels, but like since Winter Soldier, that is
Yeah, dude. I've been looking past it. I don't care for it.
Yeah. What's your favorite quality about yourself?
Quality? I think I'm a good listener. I'm pretty good at listening. Like chances are if you mention something to me, that's not like a date or a time or something that I have to do, I'm probably gonna remember So like if you tell me a story or something, like I'll probably be able to attribute that to like a later conversation.
I like that.
Yeah.
What's your biggest hobby?
Right now it's been reading and playing old Blizzard MOBAs. That's it.
Yeah.
Really.
You're stuck on a deserted island. You can only bring one thing. You can't bring a boat, and technology that you bring is not going to have cell service. What are you bringing? That's the only rules that there's.
I'd bring a hatchet.
Nice resourcefulness.
Yeah.
Who are your best friends?
My best friend right now is probably my girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
After that, by proximity, my grandmother. And yeah, my little best friends. Everyone that I've been able to get back in contact with since COVID has ended. Because it's not ended technically, but like as I've now been able to like get out more.
Yeah, more calm down.
Exactly. Yeah. It's been a blast. Even if it's just like recording a podcast. It's been so much fun.
Yeah. What's something that you have to do every day?
Put on deodorant.
No, I mean like, I don't know, like my thing's like I Q-tip my ears every day. Like
I put on deodorant every day.
Well, I guess, there are a lot of
Brush
people
my teeth, I take my medications, I eat breakfast. Something that I do every day is that I wake up and I toast 2 pieces of white bread and put a lathering, like huge thick layer of peanut butter on each of them. I enjoy them thoroughly.
That is a great way to start the day.
I'm
envious of you.
It's fantastic. It's changed my life.
What's your proudest accomplishment?
Proudest accomplishment would be trying new things and finding success in them.
I like that. What's one thing you want to own?
I really want to own a library, like in my home. Like wherever I end up putting my roots down, I want to have like a room that is like a study/library that is just like filled with like books and memorabilia.
I'm just imagining like Beauty and the Beast, that big like
Straight up
library ballroom.
That's exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Love it. What do you think the price of gas will be by the next time we film?
Dude, I don't know. It's probably, if I had to put money on it, I would probably say it's $4 a gallon.
Yeah. Where do you want to visit next?
I want to go to Alaska.
Alaska?
Yes.
Why Alaska?
I've just known a few people who've gone up there recently, and they're like, it is the best mix between like wilderness, but also like some very cool like town/urban areas, like in the bigger cities. And the wilderness, the sites and stuff is just like unparalleled, I've heard.
I like that.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice you have for yourself, for me, for the world, whoever?
It's never too late to make a change.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I missed all 3 times. Wow.
Actually, no.
That is
I'm gonna
impressive.
change my last answer.
Okay, go for it.
It's what better time than the present.
Also a great answer.
Yeah, similar but different.
Yeah. But yeah. Last question.
Okay.
Top 5. Like the 5 unordered things that are just like most important to you.
Top 5. So I could be like top 5 cities. Anything that is top 5.
One might be hiking. One might be your grandma's cooking. One might be Alaska.
I'm following.
Yeah.
These gotta be nouns, or they could be actions, like verbs.
Verbs, adjectives, anything you want.
Top 5. Number 1 is listening to an album, start to finish.
Great answer.
Number 2 is pulling up weeds in a garden. Number 3, karaoke. 4 is a tall glass of cold water.
I love me some cold water. You're speaking my language.
And 5 is if you, at the end of a shower, make it really cold for 30 seconds and then end the shower.
Yeah, just like going from like that really hot to really cold.
Yeah. That's it.
No, I follow. These are good top
Yeah,
fives.
dude.
These are like little niches I didn't know anyone else thought.
I guarantee you that nobody is gonna come up with a better list than that.
No, that's a great top five.
I'm gonna sift through all the episodes. Did you do them like at all the end of the episodes, or
Yeah.
is this new?
So the questions are about the same.
Okay.
I've taken out one.
Okay.
And I've added 2.5
Dude,
more.
I'm gonna go to the end of every episode and figure out what people's top fives were.
Yeah.
because-
No, I think it says a lot about someone. You know, like it's just like the 5 things that comes to
Right.
first.
Like what's on the dome.
Yeah.
Dude, that's so cool. I
Yeah.
love that question. That's awesome.
But I'm glad to have you on the season 2 opener.
Thank you.
It's been a long time coming.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
I've been a blast.
I did too.
Okay.
How do you want to end this thing?
I want to end it by quoting the Truman Show.
Hmm.
Good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good night.
Done. Great.
Sweet.
Oh my gosh, that was a blast, man. Are you kidding?